Alex Laguma's In the Fog of the Season's End, 1972, is a politically charged, deeply human novel set in apartheid-era South Africa. Known for his Marxist and anti-apartheid stance, Guma blends realism and revolutionary idealism to portray the life of underground political activists fighting against a brutal, racist regime. The novel is a tribute to the unsung heroes of the liberation struggle, those who organize, risk, and sacrifice from the shadows. Written while Guma was in exile, the novel departs from dramatic protest or courtroom trials seen in his earlier works. Instead, it focuses on quiet, determined resistance, offering an intimate glimpse into the mental and emotional lives of political militants. The title itself evokes uncertainty, danger, and the indeterminate nature of resistance. Living, in the fog, at the edge of change. Setting and context. Set in an unnamed South African city, clearly modeled on Cape Town. During the height of apartheid repression in the 1960s and 70s, the novel follows a few days in the life of Bucus, a committed member of an underground liberation movement. The world is one of racial segregation, economic exploitation, and pervasive surveillance by the state security forces. Main characters. Bucus, the protagonist, a seasoned activist in the anti-apartheid underground. Thoughtful, principled, and battle-worn. Franz, Bucus's comrade and friend, also an underground organizer. He is killed by the police, becoming a martyr to the movement. Others. Various comrades, including manual laborers, domestic workers, and students who support or are part of the movement. The underground struggle. The novel begins as Bucus carries out routine, but dangerous, tasks for the underground. These include distributing political pamphlets, organizing cells, and coordinating secret meetings. The narrative follows him through a series of encounters with comrades, old friends, and family members, all while under the constant threat of arrest, torture, or death. Bucus reflects on the moral weight of the struggle, his own past, and the personal costs of his choices. Through his eyes, the reader experiences the tension between the everyday lives of the oppressed and the larger, often invisible, political war being waged against the apartheid state. The pivotal event in the story is the murder of Franz, a fellow activist and friend, by the security police. This event shakes Bucus emotionally but also strengthens his resolve. He continues with the plan to organize a critical meeting of underground cells, symbolizing the continuity of struggle despite repression. Ending. The novel ends not with resolution but with renewed commitment. Bucus attends the clandestine meeting with other cell members. In the foggy atmosphere of early morning, suggesting both danger and the promise of a new day, they gather to plan their next steps. There is no clear victory, no dramatic escape, no climax in the traditional sense. Instead, Guma offers a quiet, powerful affirmation of endurance. The fog may obscure the future, but the movement persists. Themes and analysis. 1. Resistance and revolutionary commitment. The central theme of the novel is resistance, both as a political act and as a way of life. Bucus and his comrades are not spontaneous rebels. They are disciplined, organized, and ideologically grounded in Marxist-Leninist principles. Their struggle is not merely against racial injustice, but against a system of class oppression, capitalism, and colonial domination. Guma elevates their work, often mundane and silent, into acts of revolutionary heroism. The novel highlights the emotional toll of living a life in which arrest or death is always near. Through Bucus's reflections, Guma explores what it means to be a professional revolutionary, someone who sacrifices comfort, relationships, and even identity for collective liberation. 2. The banality of oppression. Rather than dramatizing police brutality or overt apartheid laws, Guma presents a normalized world of repression. Black and colored South Africans live in cramped housing, work menial jobs, and are subject to constant state surveillance. The apartheid system is not shown only in large public events but in everyday encounters: domestic workers' silence, neighbors' fear, the quiet despair of factory workers. This portrayal emphasizes how oppression permeates the fabric of daily life, making the resistance even more remarkable. 3. Loss, mourning, and memory. Franz's death is not just a narrative event, it becomes a meditation on loss and martyrdom. Bucas mourns his friend, not only as a comrade but as part of a generation committed to justice. Guma examines how grief becomes a catalyst for political commitment. There is also the broader mourning for a people. The lost opportunities, dead children, broken families, all sacrificed to maintain white supremacy. The novel, in many ways, is an elegy for the oppressed, but also a call to continue their memory through action. 4. Surveillance, fear, and silence. The omnipresent threat of the police state creates a climate of paranoia and silence. People are afraid to speak, to meet, to hope. Activists like Bucas must navigate coded communication, secret signals, and constantly shifting identities. Guma captures the psychological effects of living under watch, how it warps relationships, breeds mistrust, and isolates individuals. Yet, he also shows how the underground networks resist this fear through solidarity and secrecy. 5. Hope amid despair. Despite the bleak atmosphere, the novel ends on a note of defiant hope. The fog, though a symbol of uncertainty, also represents dawn, change, and revolutionary renewal. Bucas's decision to go to the meeting, after everything he has suffered, affirms the unbreakable spirit of resistance. It is not naive hope, but revolutionary optimism grounded in discipline, organization, and belief in the eventual triumph of justice. Narrative style and technique. Guma uses a stream of consciousness technique, especially in Bucas's internal monologues. This allows readers to access his emotional depth, political reflections, and personal memories. The prose is dense but lyrical, filled with sensory details: sounds of trains, smells of factory smoke, the touch of fog, that evoke a vivid urban landscape. The novel is short and tightly focused. There is no linear plot, no conventional climax. Instead, it is a psychological and political journey, told through small encounters, flashbacks, and quiet decisions. Symbolism. Fog, the central symbol. It represents uncertainty, danger, invisibility, but also transition and possibility. Living in the fog is a metaphor for existing between repression and liberation. The season's end implies a change, a revolutionary threshold. The oppressive season of apartheid is nearing its end, though the outcome remains unclear. Bucas's movements through the city symbolize the undercurrent of rebellion beneath the city's normalcy. The urban geography becomes a map of resistance. The underground cell meeting represents hope, continuity, and collective action, even in the face of death and despair. Characters as political types. Guma does not romanticize his characters. They are workers, union organizers, factory hands, domestic servants, ordinary people with extraordinary courage. Bucas is not a charismatic leader but a comrade among equals, embodying the Marxist ideal of collective struggle over individual heroism. Each character illustrates a different dimension of the movement: the martyrs, Franz; the foot soldiers, young cell members; the cautious sympathizers, old friends; and the survivors who carry on. Historical and political context. Written during Guma's exile in the early 1970s, the novel reflects the climate of political repression in South Africa under the apartheid regime. Following the banning of the African National Congress (ANC) and the South African Communist Party (SACP), many activists went underground or into exile. Guma, himself a member of the SACP, writes with insider knowledge of clandestine resistance, infusing the novel with authenticity. At the same time, he universalizes the struggle, making it a global call for solidarity against all forms of fascism and racial capitalism. Conclusion: In the Fog of the Season's End is a quietly revolutionary novel, not through dramatic rebellion, but through the persistent, organized, and human struggle against systemic injustice. Alex Guma crafts a portrait of the underground not as a space of desperation, but of discipline, camaraderie, and political hope. Through Bucas and his comrades, Guma affirms that true heroism lies in commitment, in enduring the fog of repression while still believing in liberation. The novel is both a tribute to those who fight unseen and a reminder that even in the darkest seasons, a new dawn is possible. By centering marginalized voices and portraying the everyday reality of resistance, In the Fog of the Season's End stands as one of the most powerful fictional accounts of apartheid-era activism, a novel of quiet fire and enduring relevance.